Hi everyone. I have finished reading your practicum logs and Typhon and your reflective exercise number 4 and have posted feedback for you in Blackboard. Remember that your detailed feedback for your practicum logs you're going to find in Typhon. Your grade is posted in Blackboard, but the actual feedback from me on your work is going to be located in Typhon. So make sure that you go there and read the feedback that's provided. This is especially important because the first two practicum logs were only worth 25 points. Your last one is worth 100. So if you consistently made the same error, that's going to have an exponentially larger impact on your grade if you continue to make the same errors on a 100-point assignment versus a 25-point assignment. So be thoughtful about that and make sure you look at that. Of all the assignments I get to grade in this course, this week and next week are probably my very favorite. This week, mostly because I really do get to know you as nurses and understand more about your experiences. One of the things that makes me crazy about online learning is I can't put a face with a name. I don't know what you look like. So when I'm reading your reflective exercise number 4 and you're talking about your personal experience, I don't really know what you look like. And I'm one of those people that read books and I create the way I think somebody looks and create character images. And I probably have to my imagination probably runs amok. So one of the challenges I have is I'm reading all of these fantastic stories that talk very much about some personal things for you all as nurses and leaders and Christians, and I don't know what you look like. So please know that you all are absolutely beautiful in my imagination. You are all beautiful and thin and lithe. You have perfect complexions. Your hair is the right color. All your features are proportional. Several of you have halos. A few of you have wings. I would love to be able to have that video reel of watching you in practice. You all so impress me with your stories and your experiences as servant leaders, and more importantly, servants of Christ. It's just beautiful to listen to your experiences. I think one of the first steps when we think about the behaviors that go along with servant leadership, I believe pretty deeply that the kind of cornerstone for those behaviors is the listening. Your classmate Lori, I think, reminded us about something that O'Brien tells us in her work about what that looks like. And Lori wrote that listening with the heart is more than active listening. It is the privilege of being entrusted with the knowledge of another's pain and suffering, and how we handle that knowledge with care and compassion. And I love the fact that Lori pulled that concept out of O'Brien and reminded the reader that it's more than just sitting and having information pass through your ears, but the knowledge that someone really does trust you with their heart, with their experience, and how we demonstrate our the ability for us to do that or open the door or the window for someone to share that is sometimes just by being present. I can't tell you the number of times as I was reading your work that I listened to you talk about pulling up a chair by a patient's bedside or sitting on the floor, sitting beside. Visual imagery for me is literally seeing you sit with your patient. Several of you talked about not saying anything, that there were no words that were appropriate for the circumstance, but that you were just fully present in that moment. And I think that's such a beautiful image. I think it's an image that we have with our walk with our Holy Father, that while we don't see him and God's not always talking to us, but we feel his presence, that he is always fully present. So I really liked that imagery. So many of you talked about these beautiful stories of being wounded healers and what that journey looked like for you. Several of you talked about the end of life. And interestingly, both of our OB nurses, Jessica talked about the end of life and unexpected death of a child, of a newborn infant. And in a few students later, I'm reading another of your classmates, Nicole, who's also an OB nurse, talked about the unexpected delivery of a healthy baby who was not expected to live. So in very real circumstances, God's work was very, very different. And that in both instances, whether saying goodbye to a child or rejoicing with the gift, You as nurses were fully present in that moment, and you shared that experience in a servant leader way. Several of you talked about watching other people and having people mentor you in one of those servant behaviors. Virginia talked about a friend of hers that was living in war-torn Africa, and talked about how that experience helped her share her own experiences with patients and created kind of a gateway for relationships, and what that meant to Virginia to have a friend like that who was so willing to share those experiences. And what a blessing it is that we filled our lives with friends, or we work for someone. I think Courtney was the one that talked about this rock star manager who just really got transformational leadership. I have to tell you a funny. I was typing in Word transformational, and it kept trying to autocorrect to transactional. So apparently Word does not know that we've transformed our practice from transactional leadership to transformational leadership. I had to delete it and literally spell it and skip over the little red squiggly line. It was quite annoying. But at any rate, it was fantastic information that you all shared. Another great example, Laurie, was talking about what it meant to be an active duty soldier and providing healthcare services to an enemy combatant, someone, an Afghani who was involved and injured, and what it meant to provide loving care to someone who you didn't really have a relationship with, who you don't know what their behaviors were in a war situation, but that she did that with integrity and kindness and love, because that's what we do when we are servants, and we're servants of God, and that's what He expects of us. So many beautiful stories. I could go on forever. First and foremost, I want you to understand how blessed I am by reading your stories, and how wonderful it is for me to know you people are out there, and that you're doing these wonderful acts of love and grace and kindness and service for the industry of nursing. It does me a great deal of good to know that you all are out there doing these wonderful things. Okay, so enough about that. I talked briefly about Typhon. Make sure you go there and look for feedback. My encouragement to you from a Typhon standpoint is, before you do your practicum logs, go do your time logs. Your practicum logs make no difference if your time logs have not been fully completed. That is evidence from surveyors, from my perspective, to make sure you're successful, that you were physically present in the practicum experience. I go in and look at your time logs and reconcile it with your practicum log to make sure that they both go together. And folks, you all know how important it is that the right and left hand are in agreement. So your time log needs to match your practicum log. Do your time log first. The only consistent error I'm seeing you guys struggle with is in the supportive narrative section. Make sure that you are talking about your reflections of the experience. It's fantastic to give me the nuts and the bolts of what you did, but I want to know why it's relevant. What were your thoughts that happened during those experiences? As you're watching a conflict, you're watching a project being completed. What aha moments did you have? What things did you go, wow, I didn't know that? What things happened that you thought, wow, I wouldn't have done that? Or that you saw something happen and you've learned through your graduate education that there are better ways to do that. That needs to be in that supportive narrative section, because folks, that's where the rubber hits the road. You can intellectualize and tell me all day long, these are the things I did, but if you don't tell me how it matters, you're not going to integrate those things into a change in your practice or into a new practice. You've got to know the so what factor, and that reflection is essential. So from an APA standpoint, you guys are doing such great things with your APA. Things are looking really tight. They're looking better. Some great things I'm seeing is several of you are getting comfortable using multiple citations to support an insight. So you've written a sentence and you know that O'Brien supported it, but you also found a second author that agreed with O'Brien. You're getting comfortable putting those two citations in parentheses and using them to fully substantiate the concept that you've shared. And folks, that's scholarly writing, so it's fantastic that I'm seeing that. Major kudo and shout out to Courtney, one of your peeps. She used level 1, 2, and 3 in the paper and did the formatting perfectly. Folks, I know that this gets to be tedious, and you're trying to figure out, okay, why does this even matter? It's an advanced skill that you're going to want to use before you graduate. So now's the time to have the training wheels on and practice it. And Courtney did a fantastic job of not only using the level 1, 2, and 3 in her writing, but did it in an appropriate method that really organized the paper and guided the reader. And I think that's not only to use it, but to use it effectively is a fantastic skill. You guys are all making great progress. I'm not seeing a single consistent thing that I'm concerned about. So I don't really have anything else to say about that. Just, shout out for all the people that are making, kind of stretching yourself and trying to do new things. I'm going to wrap up here. As you can see, Madeline, my grading assistant over my right left shoulder, apparently at 11:50 East Coast time is nap time. She has not figured out that it's really close to yummy time, and that lunch will be in a few minutes. She gets peanut butter crackers in the middle of the day. So as you can tell, her belly has not woken her up yet. So I'm going to go feed her lunch. I hope you guys are warm, dry, and safe. Spring is heading our way, hopefully sooner than later. Know that I'm here. Touch base if I can help you with anything. Know that I'm praying for you. Again, just let me know if you have any issues. I'll look forward to seeing your work from week 7. And folks, you are almost done with me. Just a few more weeks. I'll look forward to hearing from you. You guys take care.